Hi all, DT Neal here, freshly shorn for summertime, and talking to you about storytelling, genre, science fiction, fantasy, horror, all those sorts of things. I'm going to talk a little bit more about cyberpunk because I've got a new book coming out May 27th. It's available also for pre-order, and it's on NetGalley. It's called Sightseer, under my pen name of Dean Vale. First book of a cyberpunk trilogy called The Plastic Fantastic. Anyway, I was thinking about cyberpunk again, as I always tend to do. And one thing that's sort of funny to me is the idea of jobs in the cyberpunk world. Because clearly people do have jobs in some fashion. And there's that delineation between the folks who are runners, who are basically operating illegally, in that quasi-legal dystopian framework that you have in cyberpunk. You know, they're hustlers. They're the ones that are crashing the systems and working the big heists. So effectively, by our standards today, they are criminal class. And there are also people who are part of the system, who are certainly in cyberpunk portrayed as being captive to the corporations. So they built their happy, tidy little corporate lives under the umbrella of a clearly amoral, apolitical, not even apolitical, but ruthlessly opportunistic, let's just say that, corporation, mega corporation that just wants to make money and just for its stockholders and shareholders and those folk, and everybody else is an externality in their perspective. And it's funny to me because from that perspective, the people who are working for these mega corporations, not at the upper echelon, but even in the middle and lower tiers, are people who have effectively sold their souls for security under the megacorp dragon's wing, if you will. And it's really weird to think about that. For me, it is anyway, because the idea of somebody operating any number of small-scale individual proprietor or shops is almost it's effectively out of the purview of cyberpunk. You've either got people who are working the hustle, or you have people who are captive to the mega corporations. Really, you don't really have mom and pop shops anywhere, not truthfully. And if they are, they're quirky, weird, goofy, esoteric, selling something that's very unusual. And I don't know, it's funny because you see them, but it's also alien. You go up and there's a noodle vendor. You get your noodles on the steamy streets of wherever. So ostensibly that's that person's business, but is it? I don't know. Or are they merely a franchise as part of some larger entity? And for those people, for their day-to-day jobs, like, again, it's weird because the old mythology, 20th century mythology that stretched into the 21st century, is the idea of work, make money, and then money lets you buy things. You can build a consumer culture around that. But when you go into the dystopian world of cyberpunk, it's harder to visualize that. And while at the same time you portray businesses out there, there's like this idea of there is business still being conducted, but it's very strange. It's almost contradictory because it's like nobody in a cyberpunk world like, hey, let's go to McDonald's. No one's going to do that, right? They're going to go to, like, Vinny the Fist's noodle shop, right? Or they're going to do something like that, or they're going to go to a vending machine and get a brick of food out of that and eat from that, because Happy Vendo is where people get their food. It's just funny. It does offer a critique of the mega corporate existence. It offers a critique of consumer culture, while at the same time thoroughly embracing consumer culture in this other fashion. But it is difficult to imagine that kind of thing that we're used to, in 2025, that we're used to in this world, versus what they will be used to in a cyberpunk framework. I think it's funny because, and again, I put that in the Plastic Fantastic. I put that in Sightseer. There are places to go to buy things, to get the things that you need. It's just that the nature of those things can be very different from what we're used to, and their way people are working and functioning. And in that cyberpunk framework, the idea of getting ahead is almost impossible for people, which again harkens to our current plight in 2025. That idea of people who are scrambling, or they're running on the treadmill, but the treadmill moves faster and faster, and they find themselves, it's very difficult to make any progress on that. When you cram a bunch of people like that in a decaying city, in a dangerous climate, meaning the actual environment is much more hostile than what we're even used to, and people are desperate to survive in some fashion, it adds an interesting edge, a disturbing edge, a dystopian edge to that world. And as we navigate in this world, absolutely surrounded by advertisements everywhere, you cannot escape. You can't even go through a day without seeing some kind of advertisement somewhere or hearing an advertisement somewhere. Just crank that up, and then you've got that cyberpunk world. So it's interesting. It both embraces and critiques that consumer culture. So just something I've been thinking about. And again, Sightseer comes out May 27th, so get it.